They thought she was just another pretty girl walking alone at night, someone easy to corner, easy to scare, easy to control. Three cops men who'd been on the force for years spotted her stepping into a quiet alley behind the old Paramount Theater after a concert. They thought they'd have some fun, throw their weight around, remind her who held the power in the dark corners of the city. But that night, their arrogance was about to be shattered because the woman they picked wasn't some nameless stranger. She was the governor's daughter. And when the truth came out, their lives unraveled in front of a crowd that would never forget. Her name was Carolyn Brooks. She wasn't famous. Not really, she liked it that way. For most of her life, Carolyn tried to live outside her father's shadow. Governor Richard Brooks of Michigan had spent decades in politics, plastered across headlines, speeches, scandals, and photo ops. Caroline, though, found her peace in music. That night, she treated herself to a symphony strings, soaring brass, shaking the old theater walls, a performance so beautiful it made her eyes water. As the applause died down and the crowd surged toward the exits, Caroline did what she always did, slipped out through the side door she remembered from her college usher days. She wanted to avoid the handshakes, the fake smiles, the whispers of, "That's the governor's kid." She just wanted to breathe. The alley she stepped into was damp and narrow, the air cooler, carrying the stink of wet pavement and car exhaust. She wore a simple white silk blouse tucked into cream shorts, elegant but casual, her heels clicking softly as she made her way toward the street. That's when she saw the patrol car engine off, sitting like a predator at the mouth of the alley. And before she could even register danger, three men climbed out, blocking her only way out. The one in front had a captain's bars on his collar, a thick-set man with a permanent scowl. His name was William Frank Delaney. Beside him were two veterans of the force, O'Connor and Hayes men, who had long since learned that a badge could shield them from almost anything. They looked her up and down with the kind of eyes that stripped away her dignity. To them, she wasn't Caroline, she was prey. "Well, well," Delaney drawled, his voice gravelly echoing off the bricks. "What's a pretty thing like you doing out here all alone?" Caroline's heart jumped hard against her ribs. Years of her father's warnings about security, about being careful, flooded back. But she steadied herself, kept her voice even. "I was just at the concert. I'm heading to my car." Hayes snorted, stepping closer, the sour smell of cigarettes and coffee drifting from his breath. "Your car, huh? In a hurry." Caroline tried to keep her distance, but her heel caught on a crack in the concrete. The way they looked at her made her skin crawl. Delaney's smile twisted cruelly. "You know what this alley's known for? Girls dressed like you looking for business. Isn't that right, boys?" Carolyn blinked, stunned. "Girls like me?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Yeah." "Too confident," O'Connor said, tapping his flashlight against his palm. Tap, tap, tap. The sound was a threat in itself. Delaney's tone dropped any pretense of friendliness. "We're going to need to see some ID, maybe conduct a little search. Make sure you're not carrying anything you shouldn't be." Carolyn's mind raced. She knew what this was. This wasn't law enforcement. It was a power trip, an abuse of the uniform. And deep down, she knew showing her ID might not save her, it might make it worse. They might see her last name and take it as a challenge. She swallowed hard, lifted her chin. "I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just walking to my car." For a moment, that firmness surprised him. Then his eyes hardened. "Oh, you don't think it's necessary?" "Out here, sweetheart. I decide what's necessary." He gestured, and the other two moved in, boxing her against the cold brick wall. Her back hit the damp stone. The smell of rain-soaked garbage stung her nose. She was trapped. Delaney leaned close, so close she could see the red burst of veins in his nose, the gray in his stubble. "Standard procedure," he growled. "A thorough search." His eyes dragged down her body. "Don't touch me," Carolyn whispered. That was her mistake, the spark of defiance he'd been waiting for. His smirk vanished. With one violent shove, he slammed her against the wall. Pain exploded in the back of her head, the world tilting her vision, sparking white. Her legs nearly gave out, but he yanked her upright, again his grip iron on her arm. You're gonna stand still, he snarled, and let Officer Hayes pat you down. Cooperate, and maybe this ends easy. Hayes flexed his hands, his piggish eyes gleaming. Caroline's stomach turned, but then something else rose inside her stronger than fear, rage. Rage at their entitlement, at the thought of their hands on her, at the memory of her father telling her when she was little, "The world will try to make you small. Don't ever let it." She wrenched her arm free, shoved Delaney back just enough to make space and shouted, "Get away from me!" Her voice ripped through the night raw and ragged. For a heartbeat, they froze, shocked she'd fight back. But then fury twisted their faces. Caroline didn't wait. She sucked in a desperate breath and screamed loud primal, a scream that clawed up the alley walls and tore into the Chicago night. It wasn't fear, it was a battle cry. "Shut her up," Delaney barked, lunging to cover her mouth. But it was too late. At the end of the alley, a couple leaving the theater stopped. Another man on his phone turned. They squinted into the dark and saw her pinned against the wall by three big men in uniform. "Hey, what's going on down there?" the older man shouted. Delaney shoved Caroline again, yelling back, "Police business. Move along." But the crowd grew. Phones lit up, screens glowing, recording everything. Caroline seized the chance, twisting away. Delaney grabbed at her, his fingers catching the delicate chain around her neck. It snapped, the silver pendant clattering to the ground near the crowd. A young student named Ethan bent to pick it up. Heavy sterling silver carved with a crest, he recognized a hawk clutching a quill over a Latin word. His breath caught. He'd studied Michigan political families. That crest belonged to the Brooks dynasty. His eyes shot to Caroline. The jawline, the piercing eyes, there was no mistake. "Oh my God," Ethan shouted, holding up the necklace. "That's Caroline Brooks, the governor's daughter." The alley went silent. Delaney's world collapsed in that instant. The swagger drained from his face, leaving nothing but sickly gray fear. He raised his hands, stammering, "Miss Brooks, Caroline, it's a misunderstanding. A terrible mistake." Caroline stood straight, her chest heaving, blood pounding in her ears. Her blouse was torn, her arm bruised, but her voice was steady now, cold. "You slammed my head into a wall. You threatened to strip search me. Tell me what part of that was a misunderstanding, and phones recorded every word." Delaney babbled excuses. Hayes dropped his flashlight, the clang echoing in the alley. They weren't predators anymore. They were cowards exposed. Caroline extended her hand. "Ethan, may I have my necklace back?" He placed it gently in her palm. "Miss Brooks, we're all witnesses." She nodded, never breaking eye contact with the three officers. Then she pulled out her phone, cracked screen flickering, and pressed one contact, Dad. She put it on speaker. Liv, her father's voice, came warm at first. "Everything all right?" Caroline drew a breath. "Dad, it's me. I'm behind the Paramount Theater. Captain Frank Delaney and his men just assaulted me. Call the superintendent. Tell him exactly what they did." The pause on the line was heavy. Then his voice returned steel cold. "Stay right there, honey. Don't let them leave." Caroline lowered the phone. "You heard him," she told the trembling men. "Stay right here." Sirens cut through the night, fast converging. Within minutes, the alley filled with flashing lights. But these weren't Delaney's buddies. This was higher brass. Deputy Superintendent Reeves himself stepped out, suit sharp, face grim. "Miss Brooks," he said, ignoring the three disgraced officers. "Are you injured? We have medics on standby." "I'll be fine," Caroline replied, steady. "But they need to be arrested." Reeves didn't hesitate. "Captain Delaney, Officers O'Connor, Hayes, you're suspended without pay, effective immediately. Hand over your badges and weapons." One by one, they dropped their guns and shields into his palm. Then came the cuffs clicking shut around Delaney's wrists. The man who just minutes earlier thought he ruled the alley now stared hollow-eyed at the ground, his career and freedom slipping away. The crowd erupted with flashes. Reporters had arrived. And then Governor Richard Brooks himself stormed into the alley, face dark with rage, wrapping his daughter in his arms. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" I'm okay, Dad, she whispered, allowing herself one moment of vulnerability. But then she pulled away. She had something to say. She walked past her father's security straight to the cluster of microphones. Her hair was messy, her blouse torn, dirt smeared on her cheek. But her voice was clear. Tonight I was harassed and assaulted by 3 officers of the Detroit Police Department. They stopped not because they realized they were wrong. They stopped because they learned who my father is. That's the real crime. Because if I wasn't Carolyn Brooks, if I was just another woman walking home, I'd be in a cell right now or worse. The crowd went still. I'll make sure these men are prosecuted. But this isn't just about them. This is about a system that lets a badge turn into a weapon. My name is Carolyn Brooks, and from tonight on, I won't be silent. I will fight for the people who don't have anyone powerful to call. Flashbulbs lit her face like fireworks. That night, her scream became more than a cry for help. It became the spark for something bigger, a movement, a promise, a fight. Now, I'll leave it with you. If you had been in that alley, in that crowd, would you have pulled out your phone, stepped forward, spoken up, or would you have walked away? Have you ever witnessed someone abuse their power and felt helpless to stop it? Tell me in the comments below because your voice matters.